Welcome to another Friday. Yeah, it'll be Friday. Boss Katana tone tutorial for the Mark II. This week I am doing a Boston Rockman sound as requested by a former CA kid on my, I think it was on the Turnstile video. But it's been a good month since I've done one of these tones. If you're not familiar with Tom Schultz, he's an MIT graduate and he developed his own tone called a TS Rockman, Sustainor, something like that. I probably just butchered that, but it's the TS Rockman, and it just has a signature sound that everybody knows as Boston. Now, Rock and Roll Band debuted on that first Boston record, the self-titled debut, which was just a monster of a record. We're going on almost 50 years in 2026 that this album's been around. And it stood the test of time. So let's fire up Tone Studio. Enough talking here and get into it. So we got Tone Studio fired up, and this is what our amp settings are. We got it on clean with 51 on the gain, 62 on the volume, and this is kind of where you're going to get this tone dialed in at as far as EQ. You got the bass very moderate at 45, and the mids and the treble cranked 80 and 83, and over here we're using a vintage cabinet resonance with 66 on the presence. Over here, we got our noise suppressor set up. You're going to need that when you start cranking that volume. Over on the chain, we're using chain 2-2 because we are putting a compressor in front of our booster. So let's get to the booster. On the booster, we're going to use a Governor DS because we want to kind of get that Marshall stacky sound going on. So we got the drive at 58, 15 on the tone, -6 on the bottom, 51 on the level, and I've got the direct mix at 50, and I'm going to show you what it sounds like when we play with that here. So let's turn up my guitar, see where we're at as far as just straight dry signal. Turn on that booster. Is that a little loud? Do I need to turn that down a little bit? Maybe just a hair. So now we got our boost set up. Now let me tell you, that direct mix affects the tone greatly. Now I'm just going to ring out A chord. When it's turned all the way down, it sounds a little flat. When turned up, it feels a little too warm. So I found it right in the middle is a comfortable medium. Moving on to our mod, I'm using a mild compressor. I was using a light compressor, but it didn't quite do enough for me. And with the compressor, this is where you don't want too much sustain, but you want some good attack. And if you got good picking technique, that helps a lot with this song, which I don't. So the best I can do is... But when we turn that compressor on, you get more attack on the notes, and I've got the tone at 8 and the level at 50, so let's turn the compressor on. Now, it doesn't sound very good right now as far as a Rockman tone, but we're getting there. Once we hit that EQ, you'll hear it all come together. Moving on to our effects, of course we need some chorus to kind of tie that tone all together and give it some body, give it some layers, make it sound all nice and fluffy. That's probably the first time you've heard chorus described as fluffy. See, I got my low rate and my high rate, 25 and 33. Low depth at 50, 50 on the high depth, 1 millisecond, and 2 milliseconds on the delays. Got the low level at 50 and the high level at 17. 250 on the crossover frequency, 100 on the direct mix. Now, moving on to our delay, I've used an analog delay with 48 milliseconds. It's a very subtle delay. You can play with the milliseconds on there. And then the feedback at 11, 3.5 on the high cut. And you can turn that all the way up or all the way down to flat. It doesn't really matter. And 25 on the effects level, 100 on the direct mix. Turn it on. You can barely hear this. Let's get our reverb going here. On our reverb, I don't have anything on delay 2. On the reverb, I'm using a Hall reverb with 1 second on the reverb time, 15 on the pre-delay. I just turned the high cut and low cut to flat, 6 on the density, and the effect level at 12. And turning it on. I screwed that up a little bit. But that's what we have as far as amp settings. And now let's jump into the EQ and just kind of get it put all together and make it actually sound like that Rockman tone. Over on the EQ, I'm using an amp out parametric EQ, 0 decibels on the low, -2 on the low mid, +1 on the high mid, +2 on the high gain, 0 decibels on the level, and down across the bottom, I'm using 200 hertz on the low cut, 100 hertz on the low mids, high mids at 1, and high cut at 6.3. I got the low mid Q at 4, and I did have this at 8 at one time, but it just sounded a little too bright. So let's turn it on and see how it sounds. I'm hitting the wrong note on that. It should go. I don't play it exactly like it's supposed to be played, but that's easier for me to play it like that instead of going wherever it is down here. Now we got our parametric EQ set. Let's set up our graphic equalizer and finish it out. On our graphic equalizer, again, amp out. And on the lows, I got the lows pushed down just a little bit. And then I got the mids kind of lowered just a hair. And then it's just going to climb as we get up to the highs and then kind of almost level out until we get to 16 hertz here. So I'll let you pause it, check out those settings across the board there, and then I'll play with that just a little bit just to show you what it sounds like once we start using it. With the 16, normally I wouldn't have it that high, but that kind of gives it that little twanginess to it, that bright sharpness to it. And if we turn it down, I'm just going to string out the A chord. It flattens it out a bit. But if I turn it back up to wherever I had it up at 6. So. And then I got the level at 1, and that just kind of ties it all up. So let's play and see if I can't screw it up. And I can screw it up. That's one thing I'm really good at, is screwing it up. So there you have it. That is the Rockman tone. As always, it'll be available for download in the link below from Boss Tone Exchange, free of charge, as always. I hope you enjoy it. I think I got pretty close. I don't think it's perfect, but I think I got pretty darn close. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.